Why do so many people wake up at 3 a.m. every night, with their minds suddenly racing in the dark, their body exhausted but strangely alert, and the unsettling feeling that their brain simply won't shut off? It happens quietly in the middle of the night, when the world is silent but the mind becomes loud. And in that moment, sleep suddenly feels out of reach. Millions of people search the same question: why do I wake up at 3 a.m. for no clear reason, and why can't I fall asleep again after that? Some people assume it must be stress building up during the day. Others believe it's just another form of insomnia. But sleep science has been uncovering something far more specific, something happening inside the brain itself. Because in many cases, this moment is not random at all. It can be triggered by a biological response in the brain, a response researchers now call the Neural Sleep Inhibition Response, a state where the brain unexpectedly shifts into nighttime alert mode, even while the body is trying to remain asleep. And once you understand what this mechanism actually does, the experience of waking up at 3 a.m. begins to make far more sense. I'm Dr. Sarah, a sleep medicine specialist with a background in psychiatry. For years, I've worked with people who struggle with persistent sleep disruption, especially adults who begin experiencing insomnia after 40. Many of them arrive confused and exhausted after months of restless nights. They believe something in their body has suddenly stopped working, or that their mind has developed a strange resistance to sleep. But what they describe follows a pattern I've seen hundreds of times. They tell me they fall asleep normally at first. Their body relaxes and the night begins like any other. But several hours later, something strange happens. They suddenly wake up in the middle of the night without any clear reason. Often the clock beside the bed shows the same time, 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's when the real frustration begins. Their mind suddenly becomes active again. Thoughts begin moving faster than they expect. Their body feels tired but strangely alert at the same time. They try to stay still and hope sleep returns naturally, but the brain keeps producing new thoughts, and even though they are completely exhausted, they realize they cannot fall asleep again. Many people assume this means their insomnia is getting worse, or that stress is secretly building inside their mind. But what surprises most of my patients is how common this pattern actually is, especially among adults trying to learn how to stay asleep all night. This type of nighttime awakening follows a very specific biological pattern, and it often has less to do with stress than people think. To understand it, we have to look deeper into how the brain manages sleep. Because sleep is not simply something that happens automatically. It is something the brain actively regulates throughout the night. Several systems must remain balanced for sleep to stay stable. Hormones, nervous system signals, and circadian rhythms all interact. When that balance changes even slightly, the brain reacts quickly, sometimes by shifting into a subtle form of nighttime alertness. And that shift may explain why so many people suddenly wake up at 3 a.m. But here is the part most people have never been told. When the brain senses certain internal signals during the night, it can temporarily interrupt deep sleep as a protective response, not because something is wrong with you, but because the brain believes it needs to remain slightly vigilant. This protective shift is extremely important to understand because it may be the key to why your brain refuses to stay asleep. If this sounds familiar, your nights may follow a very specific pattern. You go to bed already feeling tired from the day. Your body relaxes as you settle into the bed. Your breathing slows and sleep begins naturally. For a while, everything seems completely normal. Your mind becomes quiet and your body drifts into rest, and it feels like you are finally getting the sleep you needed. But hours later, something unexpected happens. You suddenly wake up without any clear reason. The room is still dark and silent around you. You glance at the clock and notice the time. Often it is somewhere around 3 in the morning, not early enough to start the day, but late enough that falling back asleep becomes difficult. At first, your body still feels sleepy, your eyes are heavy, and you try to remain still. You hope that if you relax enough, sleep will return naturally, but slowly your mind begins to activate again. Thoughts begin appearing one after another. Sometimes small thoughts become long streams of thinking, and the quiet of the night suddenly feels very loud. Many people describe it as a racing mind at night, a moment where the brain suddenly refuses to slow down. Some say it feels like their brain simply won't shut off, even though the body is clearly asking for rest. Others feel a strange sense of alertness in their mind, as if the brain has switched back on unexpectedly, right in the middle of the night. For some people, this happens almost every night. They wake up again and again during the same window of time. They rarely sleep through the night anymore, and when morning arrives, they still feel exhausted, even after spending many hours in bed. The night technically included sleep, but the body never feels fully restored. Over time, this pattern becomes frustrating and confusing. People begin wondering if their insomnia is getting worse, worrying that their brain has forgotten how to sleep properly. Some start trying different habits to fix the problem, but despite their efforts, the same pattern continues, and the nighttime awakening keeps returning. What most people don't realize is that this pattern follows a biological rhythm. The brain is not waking you randomly. Something inside the sleep system is shifting at that moment. A signal inside the nervous system becomes more active, and that signal can temporarily interrupt deep sleep cycles, which is why the brain suddenly becomes alert again, and understanding that signal changes the entire story. Most people eventually come to the same conclusion. They believe something inside them must be broken. They assume their brain has developed a permanent sleep problem. Some even begin to believe this is simply what aging feels like. Night after night, they repeat the same frustrating cycle, falling asleep normally but waking up again hours later, and slowly the idea of permanent insomnia begins to form. Many people also hear the same discouraging message. Once insomnia begins, it can last for years, or that the brain somehow forgets how to sleep deeply. This belief alone can make nighttime anxiety worse, because every awakening feels like proof that something is wrong. The mind watches the clock with growing frustration, and sleep starts to feel more difficult with each passing night. But modern sleep science has revealed something very different. In many cases, the brain itself is not damaged at all. It is simply reacting to internal biological signals connected to hormones and nervous system activity, signals that shift naturally during the night. And when those signals become slightly unstable, the brain may briefly change how it regulates sleep. This means the brain may not be refusing sleep. Instead, it may be responding to a signal it interprets as important, almost like a protective adjustment happening behind the scenes, a change that temporarily increases alertness during the night, even when the body would prefer to remain deeply asleep. And this small adjustment can completely alter the sleep cycle, especially during the quiet hours after midnight. What makes this discovery important is what it implies. If the brain is responding to signals, then sleep disruption is not necessarily permanent, because signals can change and stabilize again. The nervous system can regain its nighttime balance, and when that balance returns, sleep patterns often begin to shift as well. But to understand how this happens, we need to ask a deeper question. What kind of signal could suddenly activate the brain at night? Why does the mind become alert when the body is exhausted? Why does this happen so often around the same hour? And why do so many people wake up at 3 a.m. specifically? The answer involves a hidden mechanism inside the brain, a mechanism most people have never heard about. Most people assume the real problem is falling asleep. They focus on the moment their head touches the pillow. They wonder why the mind sometimes feels busy at bedtime, so they look for ways to relax faster. Breathing techniques, quiet routines, calming sounds, all designed to help the brain drift into sleep. But this assumption misses something extremely important. For many adults, the real challenge isn't falling asleep at all. In fact, most people with this pattern fall asleep normally. The body relaxes and sleep begins without much effort. For the first part of the night, everything feels stable. The brain enters its normal sleep cycles, the nervous system slows down as it should, and rest begins exactly the way it is supposed to. The difficulty appears several hours later, right in the middle of the night when sleep should be deepest. Something inside the brain suddenly shifts. The mind becomes more alert again. Thoughts begin forming out of nowhere, and the body starts drifting toward wakefulness, even though nothing in the environment has changed. This happens because falling asleep and staying asleep are not controlled by the same system. The brain actually uses separate regulatory processes for each phase of sleep. One system helps initiate sleep at the beginning of the night. Another system maintains deep restorative sleep across the night. Both must remain stable for uninterrupted rest. If the first system works, but the second becomes unstable, sleep may begin normally but fail to remain stable. When that second system becomes sensitive or disrupted, the brain may temporarily shift into what researchers call brain alert mode. This state increases mental vigilance, not enough to fully wake the body immediately, but enough to interrupt the depth of sleep. And once this alert state begins, returning to deep sleep becomes more difficult. That moment of subtle vigilance is often what people feel at 3 a.m. Their eyes open even though they feel tired. Their mind begins moving again in the darkness. Many describe it as a racing mind at night. Others say their brain simply refuses to shut off, and once this alert state appears, falling back asleep becomes unexpectedly difficult. Different people experience this moment in different ways. Some wake briefly and return to sleep after a while. Others remain awake for long stretches of the night. Some experience fragmented sleep that repeats nightly. But behind these different symptoms, the same biological process is often involved, the neural sleep inhibition response, quietly interrupting deep sleep. Imagine the brain as a highly intelligent nighttime security system, a system designed to protect the body while it sleeps. Throughout the night, it quietly monitors internal signals, breathing patterns, hormone levels, nervous system activity. Most of the time, everything remains calm and stable, and when the brain senses stability, it allows the body to sink deeper into sleep. When everything feels safe and balanced, the security system gradually powers down, alertness decreases across the brain, sleep becomes deeper and more restorative, the body repairs tissues and balances hormones, the nervous system enters its most relaxed state, and the night unfolds exactly as it should. But the system never completely shuts off. Even during the deepest sleep stages, a small part of the brain continues monitoring signals. It checks whether the internal environment remains stable. This monitoring happens automatically. You're never aware that it is occurring, yet it plays a critical role in nighttime protection. When the brain senses any kind of instability, even subtle internal changes, the security system may react immediately. Alertness increases slightly inside the brain, not enough to fully wake the body immediately, but enough to interrupt the depth of sleep. And suddenly, rest becomes much lighter. This is essentially what the Neural Sleep Inhibition Response does. It acts like an internal alarm system for the brain. When certain signals shift unexpectedly, the alarm partially activates in the background. Sleep becomes fragile instead of stable, and the brain begins monitoring the night more carefully, even though no real danger exists. When this internal alarm activates repeatedly, sleep may begin to fragment across the night. Deep restorative stages become shorter. Awakenings appear more frequently. Many people begin waking around the same time each night, often during the early morning hours, and that pattern leads directly to the question most people ask next. This is one reason sleep patterns often begin to change after the age of 40. Not because the body is failing or losing its ability to sleep, but because certain biological systems become more sensitive with time. The brain still regulates sleep in the same fundamental way. However, the signals controlling sleep become easier to influence. Small internal changes create stronger responses in the nervous system, and the brain begins reacting more quickly to nighttime shifts. One of the systems that changes with age is hormonal rhythm. Hormones follow a very precise schedule across the night. Melatonin rises to support sleep. Cortisol remains low while the body rests. But after 40, these rhythms can become slightly more delicate. Even small fluctuations may affect the sleep cycle, and the brain becomes more attentive to those signals. Cortisol is especially important in this process. It is the hormone that prepares the body for wakefulness. Normally, cortisol rises slowly near the morning hours, but if that rise begins a little earlier than expected, the brain may interpret the signal as a cue for alertness, even though the body still needs more sleep. And that early signal can disturb the night's stability. The circadian rhythm also becomes easier to disrupt. Light exposure, stress, irregular schedules, and lifestyle patterns all influence how the internal clock behaves. When the rhythm becomes slightly misaligned, the brain may receive mixed signals about sleep timing. Those signals may activate subtle vigilance during the night, especially during the early morning window. When these biological shifts combine, the brain becomes more likely to activate protective responses. One of those responses is the Neural Sleep Inhibition Response, a mechanism designed to increase alertness when signals feel unstable, not because something is wrong with the body, but because the brain is trying to maintain internal balance, even while the person is asleep. This is why so many adults suddenly notice a new pattern. They fall asleep normally at the beginning of the night, but wake up again during the early morning hours, often looking at the clock and seeing the same number, 3 o'clock in the morning, again and again. And that repeated moment leads to the question almost everyone asks: why do I wake up at 3 a.m. every night? Here is the encouraging part most people never hear. The goal is not forcing the body to sleep harder. Sleep cannot be commanded through pressure or frustration. The brain does not respond well to force at night. Instead, it responds to signals of safety and stability. When the nervous system senses calm conditions, the brain naturally allows sleep to deepen again. In other words, the objective is very different from what most people think. It is not about shutting the brain down artificially. It is about helping the brain feel safe enough to stay asleep. When internal signals stabilize during the night, the brain gradually reduces its alert monitoring, and deeper sleep stages begin lasting longer again, which is how stable sleep normally occurs. When this balance begins returning, something important happens inside the sleep system. The nervous system stops sending unnecessary alert signals. Hormones begin following their natural nighttime rhythm again. Melatonin remains stable through the night. Cortisol rises at the correct morning window, and the neural sleep inhibition response begins to quiet down. This is why many sleep specialists focus on supporting the brain's natural sleep signals. Instead of forcing sedation or suppressing brain activity, they look for ways to support the biology of sleep itself. Some people begin with lifestyle adjustments and sleep routines. Others support their nervous system through relaxation practices, and some choose gentle nighttime nutritional support designed specifically to complement the body's sleep biology. There is one option many people often ask about in particular. It focuses on supporting melatonin balance during the night, helping the nervous system shift toward relaxation before sleep, and maintaining healthy nighttime cortisol rhythms, all of which help stabilize the brain's sleep signals. When these signals remain balanced through the night, the brain becomes less likely to enter alert mode. If you're curious about that approach, you can find more information in the first pinned comment below this video. That's where I've placed the details many viewers ask about, so you can explore it calmly if you choose. But before considering anything like that, there is one more important detail about the 3 a.m. wake-up pattern, and most people have never heard this explanation before. Something very interesting happens inside the brain during the early morning hours. A subtle biological transition begins quietly during the night. Most people sleep through this shift without noticing anything, but for some individuals, the brain becomes sensitive at this moment. This transition usually appears between 3 and 3:30 in the morning, a narrow window where important hormonal changes begin, and that window can influence the stability of sleep. During this time, the body slowly prepares for the next day. The circadian rhythm begins shifting toward morning activity. One of the hormones involved in this process is cortisol. Cortisol normally begins rising gently before sunrise. This prepares the body to wake up naturally later. But if that rise begins a little earlier than expected, the brain may interpret the signal differently. For some people, that hormonal transition becomes a trigger. The brain detects the rising signal too early in the night. Instead of staying fully in deep sleep, the nervous system increases alertness slightly. The brain begins scanning internal signals again, and deep sleep becomes less stable at that moment, which can lead to a sudden awakening. This is one reason the neural sleep inhibition response may activate. The brain believes it needs to increase vigilance briefly, even when the body still needs more sleep. That protective reaction pushes the brain toward alert mode, not fully awake, but no longer deeply asleep. And this is often when people suddenly open their eyes, right around 3 o'clock in the morning. The strange part is how consistent this pattern can become. Many people notice they wake up at almost the same time every night. Their mind turns on, even though their body feels exhausted. Thoughts begin forming in the quiet darkness, and falling back asleep suddenly becomes difficult, which leaves them wondering why their brain refuses to settle down, even when they desperately want to sleep through the night. In the next video pinned here on the channel, I'm going to explain exactly how this cortisol shift affects the brain, why it can trigger the neural sleep inhibition response at 3 a.m., and why some people feel their brains suddenly switch into alert mode, even when they are completely exhausted. More importantly, you'll learn how to help the brain remain calm through that window, so it can stay asleep and allow the night to continue naturally.